So, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Irish Warriors MMA show. Today we have with us Darragh O'Connell, East Coast head coach and Nexus Alicante head coach, and multiple time European, was it Nogi, was it IBJF champion. Darragh, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate
Good,
it.
good, good. So, with the Europeans coming up, I know recently last year you had one of your students, Marcus, win the Europeans at black belt, which was a huge achievement. What did that mean
Yep.
to you with Marcus winning that gold medal? Because I know you won that. You had already won it a couple of times.
Yep. Yeah, well, man, it was amazing. Such an amazing experience for me. Actually, we had two people win in black belt. I had another student called Shay Montague who won also. But for Marcus was a bit more special because Marcus, my student since white belt, he was one of the first people that started to train with me in Dublin. Literally, once I opened the gym and I became the coach. Like he was one of the first students that came through the door. He was just a little kid, and he stuck with it through all these years. He fought so many big tournaments. It's so hard to get the results at the big tournaments, let alone in the black belt adult division. So yeah, it just made me so proud, man. It was like a lifetime of work for both me and for him, me as his coach and him as an athlete. And to see him get that win was, yeah, like something almost indescribable. Really, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I remember seeing the video. It was very heartfelt. I could see the passion. It was beautiful. I'm in Glasgow at the moment. I'm training in Shay's gym and in the grip house.
No way, yeah, Shay's the
Yeah,
man.
yeah, it's
Shay's a
brilliant.
legend.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. So, you've had the opportunity to train and learn from some of the best in the world. Who's had the biggest impact on your development as a practitioner and a competitor?
Um, it's a good question. Hard to say, like someone in particular. I definitely have had a lot of help and advice over the years from Rafael Lovato Jr. It's someone who I traveled to train in his gym many times. He's been to Dublin many times. I've met up with him in many different places in many different tournaments around the world. And he's been a very good mentor to me, like both as like technical stuff and as a coach and, all the aspects as a business owner of a martial arts gym. He's probably helped me, I would say, the most out of everybody. I take a lot of influence of a bunch of other different people too. I think Guillermo Mendez is an amazing coach. I think the AOJ, the way they do things, they're very far ahead of everyone else. It's one of the places I've never actually been, but I follow them. I listen to everything he has to say. I feel like out of all the places I've been, I always try to like take something, like
Yeah,
I would say Raphael's probably helped me the most
yeah.
individually, but out of all the places that I've been, I think I try to take at least one or two things, maybe it's the way they teach technique, maybe it's the way they've structured the class, maybe it could be absolutely anything, but I've definitely taken a little bit of everywhere that I've been, but probably I would say Raphael has probably influenced and helped me the most individually, I would say.
You've competed in various different types of tournaments, from Polaris to ADCC to IBJF. How does your mindset and strategy differ between these kind of tournaments, or is it the same, kind of just going into everything, just going in to just push as hard as you can?
I would say it's the same insofar as I always just want to win,
Yeah.
like I'm trying to just get the win. And then insofar as how you approach that, it's within the rule set. They all have very specific rules. Polaris
Yeah.
is different to ADCC rules, is different to IBJJF rules. So I think you have to get experience in the rule sets to be smart to be able to win in the rule set because at the top level, at least in my experience, I was never the guy who was just submitting everybody all the time nonstop. So I had to be a bit more smarter, a bit more strategical. So knowing the rules well, knowing when you're winning, when you're losing, what it is you have to do at a given time, I think that's probably the most important in bringing yourself success. I definitely always go in there to try to win, but I'm always paying attention to what the rules are and how I'm going to use those rules to my advantage to try to get that win.
Yeah. What has been the most memorable moment of your competitive career so far, and what did you take away from that experience?
Most memorable moment was when I won the Europeans in black belts for the first time in the adult division. I was the first Irish person to win a major in the IBJJF in the black belt division. So this was something really, really special. Um, I probably would say that was my competitive like highlight. And in terms of being a coach, man, I've been fortunate enough to have so many. Like it's hard to single out. One obviously we talked about Marcus winning. That was
Yeah, that was
incredible.
fantastic.
I had I've had so many different students win and a bunch of different belts, European titles. I remember when I was coaching Fionn in the ADCC when she submit beat Mosquita in 2019. This was incredible. Um, I remember Sam won the ADCC trials. There's been so many. Like I've been blessed to have so many good moments. They're all special in their own type of way, you know. So those kind of three are probably ones that stick out immediately. But I've had so many, you know. Over the years. And yeah, I'm just grateful to have had at least one, let alone multiple.
Yeah, yeah. East Coast Jiu-Jitsu, it's one of the leading jiu-jitsu schools in Europe. What do you think sets East Coast Jiu-Jitsu apart, and what core values would you emphasize with your students?
I think probably what's gotten us to where we are is just a passion for the sport, man. I think, you know, like myself and the coaches that work there now, we just love what we do. We just love to do jiu-jitsu. We love to go to tournaments. We love to help people get better. It's just the passion that comes through. You know, I believe in any environment, be it a sports environment or a business environment, everything is top down. If the person who's at the top is passionate and excited about what they do, it's going to filter into the students and make the students excited about what they're doing too. So I would say that's probably like the core difference. We're just really excited and we really love what we do. And I think that's kind of been the basis for everything since the very start. And in terms of core values, I think, you know, obviously just trying to constantly get better at what you're doing, whether you're a
Yeah.
hobbyist practitioner or whether you're a elite level competitor, constantly trying to better yourself, constantly trying to challenge yourself, you know, to try to be better at what it is that you're doing. I would say that's probably, you know, the principal core value. I always try to encourage people of any level to compete because it helps you to get better, not because it's important whether you win tournaments or not. Just putting your name down for a competition is going to make you train in a way that you don't train otherwise. So I would say that's probably the, you know, below everything. It's just constantly trying to improve yourself. There's always stuff. Jiu-jitsu, it's infinite, you know, there's always things we can work
Yeah.
on, always things we can improve. So just keeping that kind of core value of constantly trying to both better yourself and help better your teammates, I would say that's it. But I think passion and just loving what you do has kind of gotten us to where we are and continues to get us further today because all the people below me are as equally as passionate as I am, or especially was at the very start, at the beginning of the whole team, you know?
Actually, I had your one of your students, Richie, on yesterday, and he said the exact same thing, nearly word for
Really?
word.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He said the exact
No
same
way.
thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hell yeah,
So
that's awesome.
with the evolution and impact of jiu-jitsu, with kind of constantly evolving new techniques, new training methodologies, how do you stay ahead of these changes and it kind of incorporate them into your teaching? Would you kind of stay with what you're used to, or would you always be looking to change things up, or always looking to try and see what's best?
I think yeah, like you gotta mix between two things. One, the fundamentals will always be the fundamentals. Doesn't matter how advanced or different new games, new techniques, different things come in. Like just good, solid core fundamentals, having a guard that's impossible to pass, having a base on top that's impossible to sweep, knowing how to, you know, just keep yourself safe in bad situations, how to keep yourself in control in good situations. Just core fundamentals are always going to be fundamentals no matter what. So I always try to emphasize those. I always try to teach a lot of those. And then with in terms of keeping up to date with stuff, that for me it's keeping up to date with the competition scene, constantly going to tournaments, to the biggest ones, watching the matches at the biggest tournaments, and just seeing the trends that happen and how the sport starts to evolve. I think the time when you start to fall away is the time when you stop going to the bigger tournaments or you stop paying attention to the bigger tournaments because, you know, year after year things evolve, things change. And you know, if you miss a whole season of big tournaments, you could miss a whole season of big developments in terms of technical development on that side of things. So I think it's the two things, you know, I think it's one, keeping a strong emphasis on good fundamentals. And then the second thing is just being excited to watch jiu-jitsu and keep up to date with the new trends. And, you know, of course, your top level competitors need to be on top of things and be paying attention to the trends. But I don't think this is necessarily that relevant. Sorry, my dog is
It's
trying
all
to play
good.
with me here.
It's all good.
I
It's
don't
all good.
I don't think I don't think I don't think jiu-jitsu is that relevant. Sorry, is that high level competition jiu-jitsu? There's things that aren't that relevant for your day to day student, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But
Yeah.
yeah, just being at those big tournaments and paying attention to the trends, those are the most important things, honestly, for keeping up to date. You know.
So staying in the loop, kind of staying active, constantly being involved with these things is the best way to stay up
For
to
sure,
date.
man. Even if I don't exactly, even if I don't compete in a big tournament, just being there is huge. Being at a big event for 5 days from 9 in the morning until 7, 8 p.m. at night, like you just are immersed in jiu-jitsu. You see so much jiu-jitsu, you see what people are doing, you see all the techniques that are happening. Like you get 5 days of just pure immersion of
Yeah.
just so much techniques, and you're going to pick up so much. So, if you stop going to those big events, then you lose that connection. And, before you know it, you're falling a little bit behind. So I think it's crucial to just stay as up to date as you can.
Yeah. So you've recently started Nexus Alicante, which looks like it's been a
Yep.
phenomenal success. How has it been starting over and starting a brand new club from scratch again? How has that journey been? Because you built East Coast from nothing to a fucking monster of a club. How has that journey been for the past year?
Man, it's been great. It's obviously been interesting and challenging in lots of different ways because obviously I opened with my wife, Gabriella. She's a black belt also. And obviously the initial idea was that like we would do everything together and share the classes. But pretty much right away after we opened the gym, Gabriella was pregnant with twins. And, within the first year, she had the babies. And like this put a lot of different stresses and different changes to our life that, mixed things up. So there was that challenge. And with then the other challenge too is like we're in Spain. You have to speak Spanish. You have to teach the classes in Spanish. So this is a nice extra challenge that we put upon ourselves. I can speak Portuguese very good, and Portuguese and Spanish have like 75% similarity with like words and verbs and stuff. So they're not that far away, but they are different at times. So if I didn't have Portuguese, I would have been completely lost. So I've been getting better. Like I teach all the classes in Spanish, and I'm really enjoying that challenge. And then probably the last part of it is that it's just been super nice just to start from scratch again and be teaching smaller classes. In Dublin the classes just are so big and so busy, and it can be hard when it's obviously amazing when you have 50, 60 people in an evening class, but can be hard to connect with the students. It can be hard
Yeah.
to give that individual attention that people need to progress, especially at the start, because there's 50, 60 people with just one coach, in an hour and a half class. It's quite hard. Whereas here, it's just right from the start. We have, I was teaching one person, two people for the first bunch of months. Now the classes have grown. We have 10, 15 people in a class, but it's much more manageable, much easier to give people that attention. And then the last part of it too is that when I started East Coast, I was a purple belt. I was learning how to be a coach. I didn't know anything about coaching. I was just doing it on the fly and figuring it out as I was going along and making changes and learning the best ways to do things, trying different approaches. Whereas now, man, I've been a black belt for 10 years. I've been coaching since I was a purple belt, 15, 16 years of coaching now. So now I can really, really do a much better job from the start. I know, the best things to be doing. Obviously, I'm always open to new information and trying to improve myself as
Yeah.
a coach. But in general, I feel like I'm just so much more experienced. I'm so much better at coaching. I know way better what people need to do from the start, what they don't need to do, different training methods and different things we can do in each different class. So I just feel like I'm a million times better coach than I was when I started East Coast. So I think, most of our students here have trained for no more than 9 months, 10 months, and they've gotten really good, really fast. Obviously as good as a white belt can be, but
Yeah.
they've really picked up the game really quickly. And I think we can make a much better student much faster because we have a much deeper knowledge of coaching. So it's been an awesome experience. The lifestyle here is really nice. We're still trying to grow it as much as we can. And yeah, it's just been great. The whole different challenge, something different to do. And I guess that was part of it too, is I'd been in Dublin for 15, 16 years, training, teaching, constantly in the same routine, going to the same place, training, teaching, the same routine every day, day after day after day after day. I kind of felt like it was time to do something different and do something new. And the gym in Dublin is so developed, and I have so many other great people who can help and coach and are excited about coaching that
Yeah.
I felt like it was the time to just do something new with my life, do something exciting, something different. So yeah, here we are in sunny Spain. Look, a few palm trees there. How's that?
Looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. Better than dirty Glasgow. So with the rise of European talent on the global stage, how do you think European athletes differ from their approach and training to their counterparts in the Brazil and the US? Because I know US would have a lot of like heavy wrestlers coming into jiu-jitsu because it's much bigger
For
over
sure.
there. I feel like Brazil, you'd have a lot more kind of traditional guard players. Yeah, how would European
Yeah.
talent kind of differ?
I think Europeans are very what we the word. I think Europeans think a lot. I think because we didn't have access to the sport for so long, they're much more. of a thinking population. I think we didn't have as much access to so much information for so long that it made people really think about what they're doing and think
Yeah.
about the training methodology. So I definitely think that's a strength, is that we put a lot of thought into what we're doing. We don't necessarily just go to the gym and go absolutely insane trying to kill each other. We don't necessarily uh, overthink it at the same time. I think we have a good mix of the two things. I think the biggest difference and the biggest difficulty still that Europe has is the lack of consistent high level competition, because especially in Brazil, and Brazil is so far ahead in this regards, the sport is so old there that they just have constantly weekend after weekend after weekend tournaments, and not just tournaments with all belts competing, packed tournaments with just so many different levels. You can compete so much and just get so much experience in the competition scene. You become such a savvy competitor that it's quite hard to compete with that. Let's take Ireland for an example. The scene has grown tons, and there's some very nice tournaments now that happen, but we still don't see a big depth of divisions, and we certainly don't see a tournament every single weekend of the year, and we certainly don't see a tournament every single weekend of the year with multiple higher level competitors and people who are just devoted to competing. So I think, while Europe has come on tons and we have a lot of higher level athletes now, and I think the athletes do a great job of staying up to date with the trends and thinking outside of the box and developing their own systems and games. It still is necessary for European athletes to go to America, to go to Brazil, to get that competition experience, because, as you said, in America the style is different. You're going to encounter more wrestlers, people
Yeah.
with a different background. In Brazil, you're going to encounter people that could have been training since they're little kids. It's
Yeah.
just a different, still in a development stage. I would say in Europe, but probably the biggest thing that needs to happen is just a bigger growth of the regular competition scene, so that people can get experience. One thing I always tell people is, if I have a blue belt in Dublin and my blue belt likes to compete, let's say they do a tournament as much as they can. They might do a tournament every 2 months. Okay. So in a year, let's say they do 6 or 7 tournaments. If they just stay in Ireland, okay, 6 or 7 tournaments, let's say you get 2 matches in each tournament, you've done 14 matches in the space of a year. If you live in Rio or you live in Sao Paulo and you do a tournament every weekend, maybe sometimes Saturday and Sunday, by the end of the year, you could have 100 matches.
Yeah.
So after one year, one guy has fought 100 times. And after one year, another guy has fought 15 times.
Yeah.
Like, the level of experience difference there, it's not even fair. So I think that's a big difference still. But this is just nothing but time. With more and more time, eventually more tournaments crop up. You get more people competing and blah blah blah. But yeah, I would say that's the main difference for me between kind of the three main places for training.
We'll wrap it up with a final question. Every athlete faces challenges, whether it's injuries, losses, or plateaus in progress. Can you share a particularly difficult period during your jiu-jitsu career and how you overcame that, whether that was a bad injury or a plateau in progress, or just like a slight stumble in that kind of streak?
For sure. Probably the hardest injury that I still, in some parts of the year, I can still deal with it today. In 2012, I had 2 herniated discs in my lumbar spine. I basically couldn't walk, for the guts of a week, and really really bad. I had no experience with injuries, or knowledge of the body in this time, so it really really scared me. I went to the hospital. Hospitals are conservative places, and they told me, you're not going to do sports again, and this was devastating. I'd already been opened the gym, and it was a really, really hard time. Not only physically, because when you're this injured, you kind of just want to be able to walk again.
Yeah.
You forget about that. I want to do sports. You're like, fuck, I just want to be able to actually move around. So I was scared in that regard, and then I was also scared with my career path and my gym and blah blah blah, this type of thing too. So that was probably the hardest thing for me. And I guess what I learned from it is that, and through all my years now in training and all the different injuries I've seen happen and have happened to me, other different things, and all my friends who've had surgeries and etc. You can get through anything. You just have to be patient. You have to be smart. You have to listen to a bunch of different people. There's not one physiotherapist in the world that knows everything. There's so much information online. You've got to try different things. You've
Yeah.
got to learn to be slow in your recovery.
Yeah.
For sure, the first few times you get injured, you're going to come back too fast. You're going to re-injure yourself. You learn to be patient. You learn to try different methods. You learn to, just basically get through anything. I don't know anybody in jiu-jitsu, like, short of, like, crazy things like being paralyzed and things like this. But your general injuries like, knee surgeries, shoulder surgeries, herniated discs in the neck and the back, like I've seen countless people be able to get through those things. So I think probably the most important thing to understand is that it's possible to do it. There's been so many other people who've been able to get through it. And while it will be hard for a while, like I've been training jiu-jitsu for maybe 20 years. I probably have been injured or off the mat for at least maybe 3 4 years. If you add it up, like every little, like, a month off here, 2 months off here, 6 weeks off, if you added up
Yeah.
all these days, for 20 years, there's probably a guts of 2 or 3 years easily where I wasn't training. So in 20 years, 2 years is not that much amount of a time. So
Yeah.
however long it seems in the moment, if you plan to keep doing jiu-jitsu for the rest of your life, you just got to understand that, it's just a small, difficult phase. And in the grand scheme, it's not really that much time. And jiu-jitsu is something that we can do forever. It's not something we need to be in a rush for, like we can do it for as long as we need to do it, as long as we just be patient with ourselves and we learn to recover. So injuries are just an opportunity to learn more about the body, learn more about yourself. And, short of like being like horrifically injured or paralyzed, you can definitely make your way back from pretty much any normal injury, I would say, in my experience. So yeah, probably that was the hardest point of my career was, and I had a couple bumps along the way with the same injury, feeling the same pain. But each one that I got through, it taught me that, okay, I know this pain, it's a common pain. All I got to do is be patient and I'll get back to the mats. Might be in 2 months, might be in 4 months, but I will be able to make it back.
And I think even with those big catastrophic injuries, I don't know if you've seen young Ryan Curtis, who had the tragic injury back last year.
Horseman,
He's now walking again, which is crazy. It's crazy.
absolutely,
Technology is
bro.
just getting it's wild. It's wild. It blows my
Tech,
mind.
technology combined with just the pure mentality of not giving up. The guy's an
Yeah,
absolute fucking beast. I never seen
yeah,
something so inspirational, man. And like that's a choice of his to just not give up and to just
yeah,
keep trying.
yeah.
And like obviously the technology helps and whatever, but yeah, what a legend! Unbelievable success story so far.
So before you go, I have a message from Richie B that he told me to read out to you.
Uh,
Um,
Shit.
so I don't know whether I'm gonna get in trouble for this or what. So he told me say,
Okay.
wag one with it, bossy. I don't know if that's an inside joke
I
between
as
you.
soon as you said there's gonna I said as soon as I know it's gonna be a message from Richie, it's gonna be something that nor you or me are probably gonna understand.
Yeah.
I think I know what he means, but the youth of today, Dennis, you know what I mean? It's getting away from me. I'm spending too much time out here with older people. The lingo has gone beyond me. So
Okay, well, thank you
well,
so
go on,
much for
Richie.
coming on. Thank you so much for coming on, Dara. I really appreciate your time.
Cheers, man.
It's very good of you.
Of
Thank you very
course.
much. Best of luck in Alicante.
No, you're a legend.
I'll see you. I'll hopefully see you soon if you're back in Dublin. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Nice one, Dennis. Cheers, mate.